This lake in central Quebec might just be the most interesting lake on the planet. But first, comment your favorite lake below. This is Lake Manicouagan, which is located more than 300 miles or 500 kilometers northeast of Quebec City, basically in the middle of nowhere. Now, the most striking thing about Lake Manicouagan is obviously its shape, which is essentially a giant ring that measures 40 miles or 70 kilometers in diameter. But just as interesting as the shape of Lake Manicouagan, which we can see here from space on the right, is the reason behind why it has that shape. You see, Lake Manicouagan is something called an impact crater lake, as it sits inside of a large depression that formed when an asteroid collided with the Earth. The crater that the lake sits in formed roughly 214 million years ago when a roughly 3-mile or 5-kilometer wide asteroid hit the surface, and today it's the 6th largest known impact structure on the entire planet. As a result, it should come as no surprise that Lake Manicouagan is also one of the largest impact crater lakes on the planet. But Lake Manicouagan isn't just any ordinary impact crater lake, as it's actually something called an annular lake, which just means it has an island in the center that gives it its characteristic ring shape. In this case, the island is called René Levasseur Island, and it measures 32 miles or 51 kilometers in diameter, and has an area of 780 square miles or 2,020 square kilometers. This makes René Levasseur Island not only larger than Lake Manicouagan itself, but also the second largest lake island on the entire planet. In fact, the island is so large that it actually has mountains on it, including Mount Babel shown here, which rises to an elevation of 3,123 feet or 952 meters. Interestingly, Mount Babel formed as the Earth's crust rebounded following the asteroid impact, as we can see in the bottom right panel here. René Levasseur Island is also big enough that it has several of its own lakes on the island, some of which have islands within them, which creates this interesting island in a lake on an island in a lake scenario. But as interesting as Lake Manicouagan and René Levasseur Island are, I should note that they are at least partially man-made. Now, Lake Manicouagan was once a smaller, naturally occurring lake, but it didn't become completely annular until the completion of the massive Daniel Johnson Dam in 1970. Once completed, the dam enlarged Lake Manicouagan, technically known as the Manicouagan Reservoir, into the 4th largest reservoir on Earth in terms of volume.